designed in consultation with the households that offers optimal flexibility for future expansions and allows incremental owner-built vertical and horizontal extensions. Although in this program, this is not a low-cost housing solution, it's around $20,000 per unit, we've chosen to use bricks for the bearing walls to offer better climatic comfort in comparison to cement blocks, but also to allow vertical expansion. This scheme is easily replicable through a suitable financing mechanism, ideally driven by government through housing finance schemes. And we've been discussing this at length. It is in the policy, but not yet implemented. I'm particularly proud of our success in leveraging complementary funding for several basic infrastructure projects from other donors, in this case for the Al-Walid Philanthropies, but also from local authorities who have offered often in kind or through implementing capacity their assistance to program to be able to extend our impact. Physical assessments and community consultations revealed that needs were very high, not only amongst those who wanted to return to their damaged neighborhoods, but also amongst those who never left and who lived through the dark years and survived the bombing that often destroyed their homes and assets. This meant that our reconstruction intervention had to expand so that we would not leave anybody behind. We immediately reached out to communities through our public open spaces program, where we engaged children, youth, adults, and elderly in participatory design sessions and competitions. People participation is critical for more inclusive and effective peace and development outcomes. These projects have demonstrated the power of open spaces to become some of the most transformative projects that we could have ever got involved with. Also, they appeared to be particularly effective in dealing with the profound trauma that people have suffered. Here you can see some of the sessions that we've organized both in Mosul, Heat, and other places. And here's some of the examples of the open spaces where we intervened. On the left is a space in Beji, where you can see the level of destruction that we had to look into. And on the right-hand side in the top, an image of our program in Heat, a garden that Mrs. Maimuna inaugurated last year. Yes. It is where we could combine both hard construction investment with soft components to involve the community in parallel activities. We purposely invested in enhancing social interaction and reconciliation through sports and open-air activities between populations that had faced different problems and also marginalization, social marginalization during their return. In response for the dire need for jobs, but also skills, we engaged 900 youth, men and women, in vocational training courses focused on the construction sector and horticultural, most of whom were then employed by our contractors and NGOs. We imposed that in our solicitations. One of the hinges of the concept of building back better was our ambition to integrate and adopt innovative retrofitting approaches, especially for public facilities, reintroducing passive cooling and greener solutions and new technologies that became available in the last decade in Iraq. Every single bill of quantities and public tender that we launched included environmental considerations, where the additional cost could be justified to the donor. The post-conflict period is actually an opportune time to rethink the way in which projects, local authorities, and people can contribute to the socio-economic recovery of places. Last but not least, we involved the prestigious Mosul University in promoting innovation and entrepreneurship in the construction sector by supporting the launch of 2 successive engineering weeks in 2021 and 2022. Here you see images from both events. which attracted a total of 4,000 attendees, lecturers, exhibitors, and local manufacturers of innovative materials. The response from the academia was very encouraging. We recently completed the delivery of a 2-week summer course in green building and innovative technology for recently graduated students that was also attended by a dozen professors keen to include these concepts in their curriculum and who requested for many more of such initiatives. And with this, I would like to conclude here this rapid overview of our work and will remain available for any questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Anna, for actually sharing these inspiring, let's say, processes that you have experienced in Iraq, bringing basically people together in shaping their future environments. Thanks a lot, and also thank you very much for highlighting how each activity actually contributed to the localization of the Sustainable Development Goals. And we know here in Azerbaijan, we have a very interesting case really of the Ministry of Economy being engaged in mobilizing but also monitoring the achievements of Sustainable Development Goals. And I would like to actually ask Nur Aliyev if you could share this experience that really maybe builds on the foundations of urban recovery and the aspirations behind that. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. I would like to continue in Azerbaijanian. Mr. Sharif, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, at the very outset, I would like to extend my gratitude and express my welcome to all of you on this very noble cause and event that I welcome all of you from the bottom of my heart, starting in the first years of independence, in order to realize many projects in consolidation of all the efforts. Our country, in conjunction with UN, its special, has been collaborated very effectively throughout many years. And there is a celebration of 30th anniversary with the UN. The arrangement of this event in Ağdam and Shusha is a very clear manifestation of our joint endeavors. I'll have you know that Azerbaijan happens to be one of the global initiators, of active global initiatives throughout the UN program, contributing massively to UN's initiatives. In the meantime, our nationals throughout the national programs and is inspired from the successful implementation of SDGs across many factors that have certainly opened a new chapter in the history of collaboration with UN. Ladies and gentlemen, the realization of priorities stemming from SDGs in attaining the goals, relevant goals, and they have an indispensable role in the realization of domestic goals, in achieving the fundamental goals, and it's an effective mechanism of implementation was a relevant decrease. The National Coordination Council was established to achieve the goals and for the alignment of the SDGs until 2030. Parliament, stakeholders, private sector represented, and discussions were held, and state programs, strategies, and alignment with the SDGs have been successfully completed. In our country, inclusive and equal quality education, sustainable economic growth, and full effective decent work support climate changes and fighting against its pernicious consequences of the climate change have been carried out. I think that as a conclusion, for the first time in the region, UN's high-level in the presentation of the three volunteers for communication is one of the more, once again, demonstrates how critical these steps are. And one of the key factors is 2021, February 2nd, dated, Republic of Azerbaijan 2030 socio-economic growth-related national priorities approvals decree could be a good example. And during the next 10 years, and the socio-economic development and long-term perspective, aiming 5 national priorities: sustainable economy, dynamic, inclusive education, social justice-based society, human capital, and modern innovations, as well as great return into the liberated territories, clean environment, and green growth. Targets have been identified. Having said that, social economic situation that would be carried out throughout this program was certainly approved by the president for the years of 2022-2026 and have been integrated into the program's state roadmap of 2030 when it comes to realization of the events. And of course, effective engagement of all the relevant stakeholders. Azerbaijan 2022 and the sustainable development communication amongst 132 countries, Azerbaijan was ranked 50th with 73 points that I want to particularly highlight. That in the region, according with this number, Azerbaijan is ranked highest. Ladies and in the region, ladies and gentlemen, and the clean city, smart city concept happens to be one of the main driving forces of inclusive growth. According to UN, about 55% of the population live in the capital and the urbans, and this number will go up to 70% in 20 years from now. And according to 80% to WB, 80% of the GDP is produced in the cities. Since urbanization is underway, achieving sustainable growth will heavily depend on successful governance. In order to improve the livelihoods, integrated policies are critical, and throughout which social economic aspects synthesis is critical. And Azerbaijan's new strategic development, national economic, sustainable, innovative, in order to boost the sustainable growth, in order to maintain sustainability and inclusion, we need to maintain the rural/capital balance in order to attain the goals. As a result of the taken steps, living standard differences will be reduced, and of course natural capacity potential of the rural areas will be harnessed, and regional development models will be supported in sync with the global trends. As a result of the realization, and a special share of the regions in the GDP is expected to rise up to 42%. During the last couple of years, in the light of the continuation of geopolitical certainly tension, various recession risks have resurged. Nevertheless, we have seen the growth in Azerbaijan, and the rise of GDP by 5.8% and 10.3% in the gas sector and non-oil gas sectors. Export compared to the last year has gone up to 19%, reaching $1.9 billion. Dear attendants, in line with the long-term inclusive model in the liberated territories, modern production, and establishment of the infrastructures, application, investments, in order boosting effective realization of the potential, and application of the business initiatives are amongst key targets. With the Karabakh region, Special Representative Mr. Emil already laid out detailed information that I want to drill down. But nevertheless, during the last couple of years, in Ağdam region, a sustainable, fertile business environment, enabling environment has been established for entrepreneurs. Preceding speakers, such as Mr. Ilgar and others, talked about the concepts. What are they? But I want to say that in the region, there are state programs is expected to be rolled out as a smart concept, a smart city. I believe that discussions to be held throughout the conference I mean, certain we will see the forged ties that will successfully contribute to our cooperation. Thank you very much for your continuous attention.
I think for highlighting the integrated nature of localizing the SDGs and really starting from a discussion around recovery, but looking at the whole country and putting a territorial lens of balanced development into the localization of the SDGs, which is really something that is very important when one looks also at Baku as the capital city, where a lot of people basically have found their comfort, but maybe also discomfort, and the opportunities basically an economic and social and environmentally inclusive reconstruction process could provide to actually boost the economy of the whole country. Thanks a lot, and I think in this spirit of really an eye-level partnership that the UN has been extending together with the government of Azerbaijan here in Azerbaijan, I would like to ask Vladanka Andreeva, the resident coordinator, to come on stage and look at the sustainable development goals within, as Ms. Maimouna always says, the triple C challenge, the conflict, the climate, and the COVID dimension. Over to you, Vladanka.
Many thanks, and it's lovely to see all of you, the participants of the first National Urban Forum in Azerbaijan. Welcome once again. And it's very fitting that I'm following the suit from the first Deputy Minister of Economy, because the partnership between the United Nations family and the government is true, very strong. It runs 3 decades, and this year we are commemorating 30 years of Azerbaijan becoming a UN member state and 30 years of presence of United Nations in Azerbaijan. Just waiting for my presentation to go in. Excellent. The way we work in Azerbaijan and throughout the globe, we sign cooperation framework. The latest one was signed in 2001 and it will run to 2025. We have 4 priority areas that are closely aligned with what is the priority for the government and the new Azerbaijan 2030 socioeconomic development plan. So if you read the 4 priorities on the screen, and you have heard the first Deputy Minister, what he just said, it all's linked together very nicely. We do want to support competitive economy with an inclusive growth, to have inclusive society and strong institutions, to build human capital, to support the great return, and of course, we do need clean environment to live to our children. The way we are monitoring the progress of how well we are faring against these agreed priorities is through a steering committee that I co-chair with the Minister of Economy, and then we have results groups for each of these priorities that are co-chaired by my colleagues, head of agencies, and from the government, deputy ministers level colleagues. And the 3 C's. And let me start with the first, COVID. Over the last 2.5 years, we have really witnessed the devastating impact of COVID-19 pandemic. Just in 2020, globally, the pandemic pushed 93 million people into an extreme poverty. Azerbaijan adopted a very robust strategy to fight COVID-19 and to minimize the impact of the pandemic, including introduction of social protection measures for vulnerable population. The UN country team also made a very swift response in support of the national efforts, and we have helped distribute over 1.2 million items of personal protective medical equipment, worked with 13,000 health workers to build their capacity and knowledge, and support over 1.5 million people to be aware of how to protect themselves and their families from getting infected with COVID-19. the COVID was one big sea. The conflict is another sea that we are dealing with. It affected many people in this country. It's a prolonged 3 decades long trauma, but at the same time does offer an opportunity to accelerate the progress to achieve sustainable development goals and to ensure that no one is left behind. Just in 2021, these are some of the highlights of how the UN country team in Azerbaijan has supported the government of Azerbaijan in post-conflict efforts. And allow me, just because we do have Anam on the stage, to highlight maybe the most difficult ones, to support mine action, because unless we do demining, we can't rebuild and we can't have return. In the next few slides, I will just briefly touch upon what we have done in these 4 priority areas. The first one that really is focusing on inclusive growth and preparing young people for future jobs. We have been able to support 600 people to start their own businesses, and we have worked with 26,000 people to make sure that their skills are enhanced and they're capable to find jobs to whatever the labor market demand right now in Azerbaijan is. Our second priority area is really focusing on strengthening institutions to deliver better services. We have worked together with government partners to make sure that the structures and frontline service delivery is up to the standards, and we have provided legal assistance to more than 5,000 people, and we have also raised awareness continuously to the needs of people living with disabilities. We have the Minister of Education with us today, and today is the Teachers' Day. And education is also very close to what is core and what UN does to support Azerbaijan. And over the last year, we really tried very hard to enhance access to digital education, to expand inclusive education, and to support access to formal education for refugees, youth, and children. President earlier this morning has mentioned that in a Gali village, this September, for the first time after 3 decades, there were young students in the newly built school, and that's also very symbolic in terms of regeneration of the post-conflict efforts. We have to measure what we treasure. Unless we know how well we are performing, we don't know where the gaps are. And to the UN, that's very important. There are a number of indicators for which we are collecting data. And last year, we have been working very hard with the State Statistical Committee, with different ministries, to ensure that this aggregated data is available to inform the policy decisions and program design. One study, which is very close to my heart and it's very important, has been finally launched 2 weeks ago. That's the Multiple Indicator Cluster Survey. The last one was 20 years ago, conducted in Azerbaijan, and it will offer a very important disaggregated data, which is nationally representative for over 20 Sustainable Development Goals indicators. Protecting environment and addressing climate change is absolutely where we put a lot of efforts. You see on the slide what we have been supporting in terms of following on global climate agreements and commitments that the country has made. I would like in particular to emphasize that the government initiative to make the regained territories a net zero emission one is really very important. It's a far-reaching principle to ensure sustainable recovery. It is very much in line with the Paris climate change and with Agenda 2030, and we do look forward how we are going to continue to support the government in this endeavor. The last priority area is featuring in our cooperation framework for the very first time in 3 decades, and is aiming to ensure that we have a gender equitable society that empowers women and girls. And I'm very happy that we have our close partner here, the chairwoman of the State Committee for Women, Children and Families. We worked very hard with Bahar Hanum, her team and other partners to develop costed action plans on gender equality to promote legislative changes. I'm hoping that soon we are going to finalize a national action plan on women, peace and security, and it will come in front of the parliament for final approval. And coming to an end, dear participants, this was a super short overview of what we have done in 2021. It's key highlights of joint work with government, with development partners, many of them are today with us, with civil society, with academia, and with private sector. We are going to continue to work very closely with the government in post-conflict recovery, and together with our colleagues from European Union and World Bank, we have already conducted a scoping mission in March earlier this year in 3 districts. Ağdam was one of them. And we are hoping that in a few weeks' time, we are going to kick off with recovery needs assessment that will further inform our joint contribution to the post-conflict recovery in support of the government plan. And this first National Urban Forum really plays a catalytic role in these efforts. And to quote my dear sister Maimouna, Sustainable Development Goal 11 is the docking station for all the other SDGs. And I do think that that's true. Thank you very much for being with us today, particularly to colleagues that have flew from different countries. And I do wish you a very good elaborations and even more exciting day to tomorrow in Baku. Thank you.
Vladanka, thank you very much, and also for using the image of a docking station. I think in order for a ship to leave the harbor, it is also important to think about foundations. And I think in this very context of discussing urban recovery, it is important to lay the foundations really looking at the demining discussion. And Samir Poladov, I might want to ask you as the deputy chairman of the board to shed light on the mine action work that you have been conducting here to lay the foundations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, dear colleagues, dear friends, guests. My name is Samir Poladov. I'm the deputy chair of the Mine Action Agency of the Republic of Azerbaijan. I prepared a very short presentation for you. I'm not going to take much of your time today. I'll try to brief you on the landmine problem in Azerbaijan, its consequences, the challenges we're facing at the moment, especially in the context of the reconstruction for safe IDP return. As you know, for almost 3 decades, 20% of Azerbaijani territory have been occupied, and in November 2020, after the 44 days war, a large territories have been liberated and become accessible to us. And this picture here, as you have seen many of these pictures today, but this is how I normally start any of my presentation. This is how the most of the liberated area looks like. As it was said today, they look like ghost towns, abandoned, destroyed, disassembled former residential areas, mainly associated with the presence of landmines and various unexploded ordnances, also including some booby traps and surprise mines, so-called surprise mines. Immediately upon the signature of the trilateral agreement back in 2020, the big territory has been liberated. However, landmines still present there, and they still cause a big, serious humanitarian threat to population and to people who is working there. We have, under the international pressure, Armenia has released the Minefield Records. Some people call them maps, but we have to always keep in mind that those papers, those documents are not really the maps. Those are some records taken by the military personnel in the field. They are of quite a poor quality. Only 25% of them are proven to be reasonably reliable. The rest 75% is basically useless, we can say. And while there is a greater clarity with the former line of contact, the red line that you can see on this map here, we know that this area that is almost 300 kilometers long and is heavily contaminated by landmines, both anti-personnel and anti-tank mines. While there's a greater clarity with the situation in this area, it is becoming more increasingly clear that there have been additional mining done by the Armenian forces during their retrieve of their forces throughout the territory of Karabakh. This map here, the red spots on the map show the locations of the landmine explosions, accidents that happened over the last year and a half, almost 2 years now. And we are the only way we can identify those minefields are when something happens there, or when, in the best case scenario, when our survey and clearance teams can identify them during the work, during the clearance operations. We have information about 390,000 anti-personnel and anti-tank mines from the information from the released Minefield Records. The accuracy, as I mentioned, is only 25%. All of the Minefield Records released to us cover only 5% of the all conflict-affected area, and 1.2% of the liberated territory has Minefield Records with reliable data, just 1.2%. Approximately 148,000 almost hectares of area are confirmed as the high threat area. This is mainly the area of the former line of contact, while another 675,000 hectares are listed as medium and low contaminated, low threat areas. The most obvious impact, along with the most obvious impact of landmines is obviously human suffering. People are getting killed. Since November 2020 up until today, 257 persons have been killed or injured. Injured people 213, killed 44. The presence of landmines also impedes the large-scale reconstruction and rehabilitation program of the government of Azerbaijan. Among the mine victims, we have also children and women. We have, it's not just a mine action agency of the Republic of Azerbaijan who is dealing with the operational side of things. We have also involved Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Emergency Situations, State Border Service, local and international NGOs. Resources involved in the mining operation is 1.7 thousand operational staff, purely clearance staff, also 81 mine detection dogs and 38 demining machines. We are working based on the annual work plan that is approved by the Cabinet of Ministers on an annual basis. And for this year, the target for all the organizations that I've mentioned just now is clearance of 40,000 hectares of high priority land in the liberated territories, and 8,000 out of this 40 is the residential area. We are planning to scale up our operations to bring additional resources into our country, and to reach the level of 65,000 hectares of clearance per year. We do come across with a wide variety of the ammunitions and landmines, both anti-personnel and anti-tank mines. Some mines do include mines with the minimum metallic content. Besides that, we do find different surprise mines, as you can see in this slide here on the top right side. You can see, for example, an anti-personnel mine laid on the top of anti-tank mine. Explosion of this, no one can survive explosion of this mine. This is designed to kill a human being. Also in the center of the slide, we can see some pictures of the landmines produced in 2021, obviously laid after that have been found just recently in Lachin district. And again, in Lachin district, we have come across with some booby traps. We did find some of this in the past, but in Lachin we found now quite a few of them. These booby traps, or also called so-called surprise mines, designed to kill people when they don't even expect that this particular area could be mined. You can see they are installed on a tripwire behind the doors, under the roof, just on the entrances to different facilities, etc., etc. We have recently we have plans to carry out clearance for the residential areas in 3 stages, and it is planned to clear 227 cities, villages, various settlements, etc. And the first stage planned for 2022 to 2026 envisages clearance of 38 settlements in Ağdam, Fizuli, Gubatli, Jabrail, Kelbejar, Khojavend, Lachin, Shusha, and Zangilan districts. In these 3 stages, in total of 30 almost 34,000 hectares of the former residential areas are planned to be cleared, and in line with the first stage, we will be clearing over 14,000 hectares of land. This first stage is planned to be completed by the end of 2024. The recent residential project that we have just completed several months ago, and actually we've completed this before that, but as you know, just recently certain families have been returned to Ağdam Smart Village. We have cleared over 800 hectares of residential area there. We have also cleared the agricultural lands around the Ağdam village. We are carrying out extensive risk education campaigns to raise the awareness of the local population on the threat of landmines and unexploded ordnances, to teach them the safe behavior in the dangerous areas, what to do when they end up in a dangerous area, what to do not to end up in this dangerous area. This is what is called in our language as a community-based risk education. It's when every community has one or two members who will be responsible for this awareness campaigns in the community where they live. This concludes my presentation. I hope it was not too long. I will be happy to take any questions later. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for actually sharing the experience of the demining and also outlining the challenges that remain, in fact, to ensure that actually local development can take place here and reconstruction can start. And I would like to, actually looking at the time also, would like to move straight to the next discussant, Georg Redelhammer. You are the founder, sorry, the microphone is not moving. You're the founder of a company called Firstly Communications. And I'm curious to hear your contribution regarding safety and resilience in post-conflict areas, and how those challenges could be best dealt with towards achieving SDGs. Thanks a lot. Georg, over to you.
Thank you very much. I'll take a seat here because my mobility is my problem, but it should not bother you. So, yeah, my topic is today ensuring safety and resilience in post-conflict areas. I want to give you like a short overview on what I'm talking about today. So, to attract people, the city has to be safe and resilient. I want to give you then a little overview on the future of city management, talking about the city snapshot as a best practice, how to use data. I want to give you a best practice of city management, talking about the digital twin. I want to give you a best practice example of housing, actually from Austria, and some proposals I have for you for today. So, the important thing is if you want to attract people, you have to be safe and resilient. So what is resilience? Resilient cities reveal several qualities that allow them to withstand, respond to, and adapt quickly to shocks and stresses. So this is the definition. And what you have to do here? You have to plan ahead. You have to start to develop a resilience strategy framework. You better understand the potential for crisis in each context. And you have to use smart tools, what cities know about their current state. And this will be one of the big topics today is data. Real-time information, observe the impact of interventions as they happen. Better equip cities for absorbing shocks to find effective adaptations. And of course, central database and dashboard. I will come to that a little later. Safety. To attract people, you have to be safe. The city has to be safe. Having a conscious approach to crisis management can help cities to learn from the crises they do encounter and to develop the skills to manage crises more effectively. So it's very important that you involve both local and national offices to share information and lessons learned. Of course, support from the municipalities and the genuine desire to change an organizational dysfunction, and identifying micro mistakes that accumulate to make the situation impossible to manage, and digital information and involvement of the people who are living here. So there are some simple ways to be smart, and we call it smart inventions. And here the role of technology is central, and it has to be easy to use. Residents and the local concerns should stay at the center. They have to be listened. Reaffirm the role of local authorities as trusted agents and guardians of equality and social cohesion, and a simple framework that encourages cities to evaluate city problems in terms of information and communication components. You have to identify key factors relevant for the implementation of smart initiatives, and we need to have smart people, smart, educated people to develop and to work on these problems. Core is this. If you cannot measure it, you cannot manage it. So the question is, what do we need? And of course, you know the answer. We need data. We need lots of data. But the interesting thing is, if you want to do a comparison of the cities in the world, you just need 92 KPIs based on the SDGs. This is by the information, by the ITU defined. And if you have this, if you have these 92 KPIs, you can do a city snapshot. And this is a best practice of how to use data. You have 92 indicators, like 54 core and 33 advanced indicators in 3 dimensions: economy, environments, society, and cultures. You have subdimensions and categories. And all those indicators have a certain SDG behind. And what you get then is this wonderful graphic for every city. So you have like a signal, red, where you have to do something, green, pretty good, and yellow, still something to do. And those targets, the data you apply for the city then are compared to the international data, and you see where you are standing. This system is then, of course, paying into the SDGs. So how many, what of those dimensions are going for the SDGs? This system is right now implemented in over 300 cities in the world. United Cities is planning to have 1,000 cities per year. 10,000 cities is the aim to have in this program to make the world a better place. And as a best practice example, I put in here Norway, because in Norway already 90 municipalities work with such a city snapshot. For example, Ålesund. Ålesund is working with the city snapshot. This is what they get, and here they have this signal, and what you see here is then how to work with this. So they analyze now the red KPIs, and they do it with a simulation, and this simulation is then called the digital twin, which I will come back later on. And you see here they can do simulations, real-time simulations for all the cities who are participating in this program. And of course, this is a fantastic example that how you can manage with having data in the background. So the digital twin is the best practice example to do a city management. And what is the digital twin? Actually, the digital twin is something that physically exists. You can do it like in an installation, as they do it here in Norway. It's a 10 by 10 dome, or you can just have it on a computer and make real-time simulations. So basically, you're visualizing large data, and this allows us to plan for the future. You overlay any data you want over the city. You understand immediately how the information interacts, and you use the simulator to read the pulse of the city and all details. So what happens is that you, for example, you can make a simulation of the water system. What happens if pipes break down? What happens if for the mobility prediction, if you switch to electromobility, what happens with the CO2 emission? And with the public services, building energy, and so forth. So this is the future of city management by data. Coming back from the future, I want to come back now to housing, because this is also a best practice example how to build safe and resilient and very quick housing. This system is an Austrian system. They build it in South America, lots of them in Africa, and it's based on these plastic profiles. So what they do is they build these plastic profiles in the country, then it's standardized. You put it together like a Lego, fill it with cement, and then you have actually fantastic houses who are bulletproof, who are safe, earthquake-proof, and who are recyclable 100%. And you build these houses in just 10 days, one house. It's a standardized solution from Austria, actually, but then made in Azerbaijan. You can make houses, schools, police stations, hospitals, and you just need this PVC profiles. You build a factory, and the smallest factory, they can build 3,000 houses per year. The value chain stays in the country, the revenue stays in the country, the interior stays in the country. You can make different roofs, because every country has different roof designs, and it's 100% recyclable. So this is an example of smart and sustainable housing. So what are the next steps? As an idea from me, as an Austrian who has some ideas for Azerbaijan, I think it would be a good idea to start working with city snapshots. Of course, not here in the liberated areas, but to start working with already developed cities like Baku or Sumkavit, and to build a digital twin in Baku. Why? To make a big statement on SDGs, to make Baku as a hub for the region on SDGs. All of the cities, they can make simulations here, they can do conferences here and talk about sustainability here. It's a big, big symbol. Another thing that I was taught, because I'm also city councillor in my hometown of Linz, working on city partnerships is very effective, but only if you really combine it with SDGs. This you can do already with cities, developing cities like Ağdam, and go for cities who are working with, for example, city snapshots already in Europe, who can bring technology, who can bring investors, and who can also use the airports here. And this is why I put the airport partnerships in here, because what we have is that what we don't have, that at smaller airports, also in Austria, in Germany, they don't have, they have a good possibility to offer direct flights to your airports here. And because when I fly from Austria to Baku, I have to go via Frankfurt, via Vienna, via Istanbul. So it's a little bit challenging, the mobility. And then I have another proposal for you. This is an NGO in United States called sustainchain.world. I've opened up a group already for Azerbaijan Urban Forum. This is an international platform where we can gather all the information we have, all the needs we have for projects, for machines that we need. I offer this to you, that you participate also here, and that we just make it as an open group here. So, come to an end. And it's important that you make the difference. But more important is that you are the difference to make the world a better place. And all people who are sitting here in this room, And to end, I just had an idea because I want to make a short video with you. I don't want you to applaud to me. I want to applaud to the spirit of sustainability we have in here. And I turn on my video now, and it would be lovely if we could stand up and we applaud together for the ghost of SDG, which is here. And actually, if you stand up, I think afterwards is lunch. It's a good exercise. Thank you very much, and let's applaud for sustainability. Thank you.
Down again, because I think I would like to, in fact, remind ourselves that this, and the last contribution also showed this, stimulating ideas and exchanging ideas from other contexts are really interesting, and to see where they can be best basically adapted to the context here in Azerbaijan is quite, how to say, interesting, challenging, but also I like the idea that in fact, these digital twins, they are not just the future, they are also now. And I think we are living now, and I think with great, bold ambitions. I think achieving the SDGs and accelerating actually the localization is something that the government of Azerbaijan is fully embracing. And I really thank the panelists for this. And maybe if there are any immediate questions, because I think we are not only here to discuss from the panel, but if there's any contributions from your side, I invite you to quickly raise your hand, or otherwise you can always grab us over lunch to clarify questions, and we also have the wonderful opportunity to talk and continue more technical discussions also tomorrow back in Baku at the Ağdam University. I don't see any hands, so I think we'll meet you down in the auditorium for further questions, and I give a big round of applause for the panelists as well. So I assume there is lunch now, a little refreshments to strengthen ourselves before we actually, I think, go and see the real Ağdam on the ground and the challenges that are faced there. And then wishing you all an exploratory afternoon.